Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy Goodman, and today we're going to be talking about media literacy. So this lesson is going to be kind of divided into two core parts. The first one is about uh, how you behave online and how that impacts uh, and interacts with your understanding of, again, what you're interacting with and how it affects others. And then just about being able to recognize what you're interacting with and what else you put out there. So our objectives and outcomes, we're going to focus on two ISTE core principles, 1.3a and 1.3b. 1.3a is students being able to use effective research strategies to find resources that support their learning needs. And that's mostly just being able to determine if sources are credible and if they should be using it the way they're using it and if they have permissions. And then 1.3b, students will evaluate the accuracy, validity, bias, origin, and relevance in digital content. There's a whole lot out there. We just want them to be able to know what is real and correct and what is just distractions. So overall outcome, students will be able to define media, identify and understand its meaning and messaging, and develop skills to determine credibility of sources of information, understand how copyright and fair use apply to media use and consumption. So let's just start with what is media literacy itself. Well, the word media refers to just any means of communication, print, broadcast, online, all that's out there. Literacy generally refers to the ability to read, write, and I put in understand what you're seeing or are interacting with. So by combining them, it's going to refer to an individual's ability to access, recognize, understand, and interact with all the media around them. So media literacy in action. It's coming at you faster and in a larger volume today than just pretty much ever before. Social media news outlets through phones, computers, tablets, uh, and some things kind of acting like a news source that kind of really isn't a proper news source. We also still got television, radio, podcasts with lots of advertisements bombarding you. You got billboards and printed materials that you see just driving or walking around. Uh, and now that you have accessed it, how will you engage with it and understand its meaning? So first, we want to focus on just the technology. In a world with near constant digital connection, it's really important to act responsibly and ethically. We're going to first start with a lot of our behaviors because our behaviors kind of and how we act online and interacting with these things and with others kind of form the basis for everything else. We have to remember, technology is a tool. You have to know how to use it correctly or risk a danger to yourself or others. Technology is also a resource. You want to use it responsibly or it can be a distraction or an addiction. It's a channel of communication. We want to use it to reach out and not to self-isolate, as well as to build up, not to harm. And it's far-reaching. Without a proper guide, it's easy to get lost and confused by everything that's out there. So a core principle that we have to go into with all this is still focusing on our digital citizenship. Because again, more and more of our media usage is shifting to online. That's including how we interact with videos, movies, content. It's all connected and it's all online. So we have to first, before we interact with these things, first determine how they impact us and how we're going to use that to impact others. Because we, in our online presence, acts as a mirror for all the things we take in and push out, is either whether it's good or bad, we reflect it back out into the world. So our technology, it allows us to connect with others with our phones and computers, and most of us, we interact in some way every waking minute of the day. So it's vitally important to approach these interactions with responsibility and clear-headedness. Internet's a really large place. You should know who you should and should not venture, or where you should and should not go online, as well as who you should and should not interact with. We also want to be sure that as we're out there and interacting with people, we're treating them with respect. We're putting positive things out there so that we take positive things back in. And a key thing that we'll see, this is not the first time I'll type this on here and say it to you, don't share private information online. That's a kind of a very core based thing. Don't put yourself out there in that level. We also don't engage in activities that can be harmful or dangerous to yourself or others. We'll talk a little bit about the material and stuff we put out there. That's kind of also ventures in this point where you start venturing into legal areas. Don't do that. So we'll get in there more as we go on. So the core thing is we want to behave responsibly. You can only control yourself and your behaviors. So you might as well start with a very core uh, responsible foundation. You want to start by avoiding websites with inappropriate or illegal content. There's plenty of places out there to find things for free, but they're usually very, very illegal, or maybe even give computer viruses or get some other phishing and dangerous attempts out there. So just avoid those. Also, again, second time now. Do not share private information. This means yours or someone else's. Don't put your information out there and don't dox other people. You don't want to do that. Don't share your passwords and account information with anyone else. Keep those things private. Maybe even get, two-factor authentication. Maybe have a special copyright. I know there's programs you can get for password vaults and protection programs, maybe something like that. Also, on a much lighter note, just avoid distractions. It's a lot of stuff streaming at you on your phone, a lot of pings, a lot of distractions. Got to find ways when you're doing work, especially doing work with the computer, avoid all those extra distractions so you can focus on what's important. You want to talk about safety. You're interacting with people online a lot. Don't put personal information online. I even wrote it over here. This is the third time I talk about it because it's vitally important. Don't put your information out there. Keep it private. Don't agree to meet anyone you've met online. Recognize those red flags. We'll go over that more in a minute. And if something makes you uncomfortable, tell someone and set up firmer boundaries. And we'll talk about that uncomfortable feeling in a couple different ways here as we talk next about red flag recognitions and kind of like online stranger danger, as well as cyberbullying in the next few slides. So again, behaving and interacting responsibly with media and through these platforms, we want to make sure we watch out for some dangers out there. So if you're interacting with someone online, you know them online, you don't actually know who they are. They could be anybody. Just be aware of some red flags in these interactions. They ask a lot of personal questions. They use maybe odd or adult phrases that don't quite seem right to you. They send you random direct messages. They ask you for a lot of photos. They may use sexual jokes or comments. They may start offering you money or in-game currency in exchange for actions. They ask you to keep secrets, or keep secret that you're friends with them. Or they start asking you to meet in person. All big red flags. Also online, with how we interact with maybe people we do know, you want to be an ally, not a bully. You want to treat others online the way you want to be treated. You don't want to harass or bully other people. Recognize when other people are being bullied and stand up for them. Don't let them be left out alone. And always report bullying when you see it. So a few tips with that. You want to talk to an adult you trust. Don't retaliate, because bullying back never causes anything but escalation and maybe more severe consequences. And gets you in trouble too, because you're also bullying in that situation. Even if you're bullying a bully, that's still cyberbullying. Don't forward mean messages or rumors. Don't contribute to all that. You want to set clear boundaries, because the simplest way to start is just saying, hey, I don't like this, don't. And save any evidence when it does occur. So now moving on to just what you put out there. Like everything you post, share, or contribute into the online media, ether, it stays with you. What you post and share online, it's public for a long time to see. So don't post inappropriate content. You want to research and validate what you are sharing and posting and make sure it's credible, make sure it's real, make sure the source you're sharing and putting out there as a representation of yourself and your thoughts and beliefs is real, is valid, isn't a lie, isn't fake. And as well as do not take credit for other people's work. You want to give credit, you don't want to plagiarize. That leads us into talking about fair use and copyright. So first is fair use. It's any copying of copyrighted material done for a limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment upon, criticize, or parody copyrighted work. Such use can be done without permission from the copyright owner. So common ways this is done is within education, is student projects like this, or as a teaching resource in the classroom with the teacher showing it as an example for students. Other common examples would be like news reporting. So we see in the news, they may show a clip of something that's just passing along as information. We also see remixes and mashups in a more creative space, as well as for criticism parody, usually for comedic or satirical purposes. The other end of that we already addressed is copyright. This is the type of intellectual property protection that produces anything created by the author. And pretty much shows that anything from the moment they put their work out there in the world, it is theirs. They own it. So this pretty much covers everything. If it's a painting, a photograph, art, music, any sort of programs, books, poems, even architectural designs, plays, pretty much anything that is a viable, created thought or thing, they have the copyright of it. They own it. It's their intellectual property. They designed it. They put it out there. So how do these two things interact, copyright and fair use? So fair use pretty much allows the individual to use copyrighted material if it's for educational purposes, like this right here, if it's not being shared publicly, again like this, and if it's for personal use. So you should not use someone else's copyrighted materials for your own personal or financial gain. So I couldn't take, again, someone else's video, put it out there and monetize it. I couldn't sell something that's not mine to sell, so on. This leads us into two kind of like the usual examples of how to work with those materials. That's Creative Commons and the public domain. So if you're going to be using this media that you find online, you want to make sure that you're using it from some good sources that you know that you have permission to use legally. There's, again, Creative Commons and public domain are the main ones. Anything that's public domain may be used freely without permission or compensation. It kind of falls outside of copyright protections. This is generally usually things that are, older to the certain point where any sort of copyright protections have long since faded. Most recently, this would be like Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse's earliest thing. It can be used as part of the creative, as a public domain because it's been in existence for 70 plus years. The other side of that is Creative Commons. These are just falls into 6 different license types that the creator and copyright owner can set to determine how their materials can be used online with very specific situations and circumstances. Okay, so that's what we put out there. Now, what about what we take in? We want to talk about just digital literacy and how it relates to just fake news for the buzzword. Don't share anything that you cannot verify is true, because continuing to spread fake information, fake lies, no matter how catchy it is, isn't helpful to anyone. It just muddies the waters and makes things more confusing. So you want to analyze what you see online and verify if the source is credible or not. False information is prevalent. You want to check other sources to verify, like get a second opinion. Go and see, okay, this is what this news article is saying about this. Maybe Google and try to find another one from a credible source, maybe one that's presenting a contrasting point of view, so you can compare the two. Okay. So we're kind of analyzing the media that we experience. I want to ask who created it, why they created it. Does it seem like clickbait? Is it got the title just to pull you in? How's it getting my attention? What's its overall message? And what does it want me to think? What is the purpose of that media? Is it trying to get me to do something, to think something, to support something? What's its purpose? How does it reflect my experiences? Like, okay, does it tie into something I feel? But then I need to also step into the shoes of someone else who's different than me. Would it relate to them? Would they see things the same way? And what you also want to pay attention to what is not being said in this media. Is something being omitted? Something very important? Is it avoiding talking about or addressing a certain key issue? And finally, to go through it, you want to give it the crap test. You want to check currency. Is this information timely? Is it relevant? How does it fit my needs or what's being put out there? We see that with the news algorithms. You click on one thing, and so whatever platform you're on, whether it's a news station platform or social media, it's going to keep giving you more and more of what it thinks you want to see. Even things like Netflix. You watch a certain movie, it's like, hey, you want to watch these movies? Hey, you listen to this song, you want to listen to these other songs? You read this article, you want to see these? And it becomes really hard to avoid this one thought being reinforced by algorithms trying to tell you to think a certain way. So be sure to, again, check and see outside that. The authority, this is again the source of the info, checking if it's from a credible source or not. Accuracy, reliability, and correctness of the info. Is it, so most of these articles will try to, cite something else. Check what something else is. Read it. Check other sources that cite the same thing and see if they're cited in contrasting ways, if they're picking and choosing what they are representing. And finally, it's purpose, the reason the info exists. What is the overall goal of what's being pushed towards you? Is it to get you to do something? Or is it to inform you? Is it to sway you in some way? You want to think about all these things to determine, is something relevant, is something real, is something credible? All right, thank you.